Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Men's Physique Show. As you can see clearly here, we have a very exclusive interview that we're bringing you here on the channel. We are so grateful and just so happy that we have the multi-time Olympian, the Indian multi-time Olympian, the pioneer in the sport. Bhuwan Chauhan is in the building.
Let's go.
Bhuwan, what's going on, brother?
Thanks for having me, guys.
Let's go.
Joining me today, I also have Men's Physique Masters Pro, Aleem Bolton. Aleem, what's going on, brother?
Doing great, man. Doing great. So happy to be on this with Buwan, with you boys, and just really get into it, man. I can't wait. I've talked to some of my friends over in India. They love you. Can't wait to jump into this.
Phil, what's going on? I got the Australian voice of Men's Physique in the building. Buwan, I'm sure you've been familiar with his work over the past few months. Phil, what's going on, brother?
Boys, what's going on, Buwan? Man, it's an absolute pleasure to meet you. I mean, I know you were one of the guys that the Indian community wanted to see on our show, man. So we're looking forward to diving into, all things bodybuilding, life, business, the works, man. So yeah, can't wait to get into it.
Buwan, I'm gonna start this off, brother. And I've been thinking about this question for a few weeks. I knew we had you scheduled on, and obviously, the Indian men's physique community is engaged and they're passionate and they're just in this thing. I feel like more than any other fan base. Maybe the Brazilians are there, but it's like our second biggest demographic on our channel is the Indian fan base. So this is a big interview, and I want to ask a question that kind of involves them. And for me, brother, it is: did you ever feel the weight of being the man who had to prove India belonged in the men's physique division?
Yeah, I would say right in the beginning, when I just started out, that's before, I turned pro. I felt like at that time, there were no Indian ISPB pros in men's physique, minus Freddie, who was from Indian origin, but he was an American. I saw his journey in 2015, 2016. And I used to always wonder, I haven't seen any Indian from India to get to that stage or be a pro even. So it started off as being a pressure of being a pro before being somebody that can, take on the whole country and go to the Olympia. In the beginning, it was just about why aren't there any pros? And men's physique is a division that I always believed Indians have the genes for men's physique, especially back in 2016, 2017. That's the genetic frame that most of the Indians do have. And as I saw more, even in Canada or in US and in India itself, I saw that people were they were competing, but nobody really saw it as a career. So when I did turn pro, one of the biggest things or the biggest challenges was that, hey, can it actually be a career? Can it be something that can go against the stereotypes of what, mostly Indians see are supposed to be, like a doctor or an engineer or somebody in academics? Can they actually be a bodybuilder, like a full paid, full-time bodybuilder? So for me, that was the biggest thing that I wanted to prove. When I saw a lot of people coming to me with questions, they used to come to me hey, how do I do this full-time? So I think Olympia, yes, that is a lot of pressure to get to the Olympia. But for me, I would say the biggest challenge was to make this into a full-time career. Strictly as a bodybuilder or men's physique athlete.
That was awesome, man. That was awesome. Hey, what has been your experience being in India and the fan base there and the culture with bodybuilding there versus coming over here to the States? You've obviously competed in both. What have you noticed as some of the differences over the years? So when it first started to right now, what have you noticed?
I think the biggest difference is that at least in the West, it is still not looked up as you will do a couple shows and you can make it into a career. It's more so that you have a career and you do it as a passion or a hobby. But in India, it's you competed 2 times. If you compete the first time, you're expected to make money off of that. So it's not, I think it's more so short-lived. It's your short-term, I want to make this much money. In 1 year, I want to make X amount of money. In 2 years, I want to turn pro and then make X amount of money. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's more so, the culture here is more so of an influencer. So if you're a competitor, you are thinking in the direction of being an influencer because that's how you're going to be making money. And from my own journey and from everybody that I know in the West, yeah, you have it in the back of your mind. It would be great to be full-time bodybuilder. But as you guys already know, 90% guys, at least 90% of them have full-time jobs or some sort of a business that is not fitness related. And I'm talking about the top 15 Olympians. That's not even like this Olympians, like 62 or 65 of them. So that's a very different mindset and a culture in India.
Love that, man. And I love the fact that the Indian culture is starting to, kind of turn around, because, I mean, we see a whole heap of Indian competitors, now representing the country on the bodybuilding stages, not only at the Olympia, but around the world. Even myself being in Australia, like the amount of Indian competitors now jumping on local stages is incredible. Let's talk about bodybuilding in India. I mean, did you have many role models growing up? Obviously, you being one of the first IFBB pros to jump on an Olympia stage, who did you look up to, when you first started going into the gym, and what even got you into the gym and what got you into competing?
So for me, so in India, the culture back when I was a teenager was not of bodybuilding. There was no bodybuilding. There was no men's physique. And you'd be like, obviously nobody had heard of that before. So you would look at actors. So the actors were the ones that used to display the physique. So I used to have a favorite actor called Hrithik Roshan, and he used to have like a great physique, but lean, chiseled physique. And I started looking at him. I think I was in 10th standard. I was 16, and that's what inspired me. That I want to get some abs. I want to really look like that. And then by the time I was done with my schooling and I came to Canada for my undergrad, I had the opportunity because I had the time, and I was always into sports, but in Canada, I didn't have any sports. So the first person that I saw on YouTube, I started delving into forums, and YouTube was Greg Plitt was the first guy I ever saw. And I was like, this is hardcore. This is I can resonate with this guy. And then the second guy was Ziz. At the time, he was very popular. This is 2011. And so I started looking up to these two guys, but a completely different mindset and lifestyles, but both had very aesthetic physiques that I could I want to look like that. And the third was Ulysses Jr. So I would say these three guys at the start of my fitness journey basically inspired me to look like them.
Well, that's awesome. What were you in school for?
Engineering, petroleum engineering.
Nice. During that period of time, was that a very challenging time for you, being away from home and being over there? Was it challenging culturally and all that?
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning it was, and that's why gym kind of became. Looking back at it, I think gym was just a way of dealing with a lot of pent up emotions and just dealing with a lot of time away from family, friends, and things like that. And just feeling out of place in the beginning because, here I am under so much pressure. But it was a lot of pressure, but I needed something. I needed more than just the school for an outlet. And gym, that's exactly when I had started working out. And there was a ghetto gym, it was in my dormitory. It was just a basement gym with basic metal plates and equipment, and just there was no machine that you would see. It was just basic 6 machines, all black, all metal. And that was the first gym. And I used to feel comfortable because I would go there at 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. when it was dead. Just so that nobody can see me, because I used to be skinny. I used to be somebody that didn't really want to feel people used to, I was in a place where most people were already working out in high school. So they had a good base. And here I am working out for the first time, didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that I saw something on YouTube and I want to replicate that, whatever I was doing. So I wasn't comfortable with anybody watching me. And then I saw a few guys there used to be very jacked. They used to be running a group, used to remind me of the videos I was watching. And I wished one day, maybe I'll have a group like that, 2, 3 guys. And and after a couple of years, those guys actually ended up becoming my best friends. So yeah.
It's awesome. Some of those metal gyms are the best ones though, for building physiques, that hardcore. Yeah. I mean,
I agree.
Look what it produced.
I agree. That was good.
I hope to. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that gym definitely was my favorite. I've gone there a couple times. Every time I've gone to that city, I make it a point to go to that dormitory and see where it all started.
That's awesome.
I love that. Buwan, it's so cool hearing you talk about how Greg Plitt, Ziz inspired you to start working on your physique to build more confidence and look who you are now and look what you do. And now I can only imagine, boys, Phil, Aleem, how many other people Buwan inspires in the same way. And I have a feeling it's hundreds of thousands, if not millions, over the last 6, 7, 8 years you've been in this, Buwan. So that's super cool. But my question to you, Buwan, and this is very interesting to me, and I want to get your take. Do you think your men's physique pro peers that compete, do you think they have a responsibility in representing the sport the best way possible to the younger generation as influencers? And how are they doing that? Because I see a lot of Indian influencers that are pros, and I want to get your take. How do you think they're representing the division in Instagram and social media and influence? What's your take on that? Because you were the first one, brother.
Mm-hmm. I think, I think they do have they do have a responsibility, because there's a lot of youngsters in the next generation that looks up to them, and they basically, at that age, when you're a teenager and just like early 20s, you basically try to emulate what you watch. And I know because I've been there. So I feel like a lot of them are doing a good job with showing the hardships, showing the struggles, and showing, like, how they're getting after it. And there's some guys that are already having families, they're already married, they already have kids, and people can look at them and be like, hey, they're young, but they have a responsibility, and they're able to like balance. I know personally a few guys who have families, and a lot of the times they have to focus on that versus the competing side of it, because when you have family, that is always going to be a number one priority. And I feel a lot of the youngsters can learn from that there's two ways of balancing. One is like obviously with the family, but the other is like, hey, just being all in into the sport and just focusing on yourself. And I think every individual, every youngster should be able to look at that and choose that which path you want to go for how long. So they do have a responsibility in how they represent, because they're able to inspire two different kind of people in two different ways. And they're doing a good job. I really don't think there's any guys that are not doing a good job. I would say like a couple of years ago, there were some outliers in that, in which I don't think they were doing a very good job, especially like in 2020, 2021. But as you know, the sport is such, only the strong last. And I feel like a lot of those guys that were competing for the wrong reasons are not even in the sport. I don't even think they're pros anymore. The pro title has actually been gone. So, I think for right now in India, all the pros are doing a great job.
That was awesome. We noticed that you were talking about sponsorships, and you're still with Dark Sports, correct? That's awesome. That it's a very rare thing for I shouldn't say it's rare nowadays, but it was rare for Dark Sports to kind of go outside and go into international waters. What was the attraction to you? I mean, we see it, of course, which is the popularity, how you carry yourself, so professional and whatnot. But did they approach you? Did you approach them? What was that relationship like, and how did that kind of get cultivated and grow to what it is now?
So I joined Darsport in 2020. December of 2020 was my officiation. And then I think we started talking around October, right after I had won the Tournament of Champions show that year and qualified for the Olympia. I do know 2019 was a year that I did 6 pro shows. And that was the year that I got in touch with, like, I was competing against a lot of dark sport athletes because most of the shows I was doing was in California. Or at least in the west of the US. So I would just see, like, there was Surak. I think I did like 3 shows with him.
Oh yeah, Surak,
there was Joe. I did like a couple shows. And Oh Boy, I did the show the year before 2018. So I was competing back and forth with a lot of the dark sport guys, and I would see them, and I would see obviously the brand itself. And at the time, it was popular, but it wasn't like so many athletes. Like it used to be like it's a privilege to be part of that sport. There was barely, I would say, like total of 12 or maybe 13 pros in men's physique. So to me, that was kind of like a challenge. To me, that was kind of like, oh wow, this is like another challenge that would be really cool to be part of. So I did all those shows. I know I've spoke to Michael that year. I don't know which show it was, but I spoke to them. I spoke to the guys. And then the year after, when I was competing in Tournament of Champions, there was like, I think 4 or 5 dark sport guys. And then I won, and Steven was also one of them, and me and Steven joined dark sport at the same time.
Oh, you guys did the initiation?
Yeah, it was just cool, and then I just got it. I actually, I hit him up again, Michael, and I'm just like, hey, so what do you think now? Like, I think, I've won like 2 shows now. Because that's what he told me in 2019. Hey, just build your like portfolio up, like a resume. You use the word actually resume up. So I was like, hey, so it's like a good 2 wins. I've won twice, and I've done a pretty good job beating all your other dog sport athletes. So what do you think? And he's like, yeah, man, we've kept an eye on you. We've been keeping an eye on you, and I think it's about time to discuss this. So then, and then I think they had an internal discussion with some of the other athletes, and all the athletes had nothing but positive things to say about me. That's what he told me. So then that's how I was officiated.
That's awesome.
Wow.
That sounds like Mike Civil.
I didn't realize it was as deep as that. I didn't realize they had to go through a whole committee meeting with the athletes to get involved. I just thought it was just a sponsorship and that's it.
Dude, they do that circle.
And that's something I really found it cool. I don't know how much it is today, but back then it's just like they were very careful with what kind of athlete is going to join. Like, what is his personality? Is he a good sportsman? Is he somebody that is obviously all those traits of the look for: loyal, honesty, integrity? So they just asked the guys that have competed with that person.
It's crazy. That's a cool way to do it, though. It makes it like that fight club sort of environment. Yeah. It's who you know. That's how you get into the club. I love that. Buwan, I want to ask you, I want to go back to the youngsters coming out of India. I mean, we've got someone like Anik, we've got Manoj coming out of India. Who are you most excited about coming out of India to represent the country in 2026 and beyond?
I think to me, I've competed the most with Rahul. I've seen him turn pro. Honestly, I've seen all of them turn pro. I was at the shows that they've turned pro at, whether as a competitor or as a guest. And from the beginning, Rahul, Anik, even Amit, I feel these guys they have the traits of being a hardworking, sincere. Sincerity is not something you find common in India. So they have all the traits that it takes to be a successful athlete, and more importantly, to last in the sport. Because it is not an easy sport. It takes a lot out of you. There's a lot of things you have to face: social media, and you have to do like a lot, and you have to be very, very headstrong, and you have to be very strong internally. And I think these 3 guys have a good support system and have a good integrity and belief. So I think these are the 3. And there's others too. There's like new guys that are like young, that are also up and coming. But out of maximum potential, you ask me, I think these 3 are they have the traits that I think what it takes to be, to be the best at the sport.
Love that answer. Great question, Phil. Bhuwan, I can't help but see sometimes when you start succeeding, when you win a show, when you do something good, I see some hate sometimes, bro. And I see some hate from the Indian community specifically. And I can never put my finger on the pulse why they're targeting that at you. Do you have any idea where that comes from?
Yeah, see, it took me some time to realize. I would say like 2023 was a very different year for me. And the reason for that is because in India, we have this thing, and I know most Indians will agree on this, so you'll see, but we have this thing that's just called the crab mentality. And I've spoken about this quite often on my channel and a lot of other channels, and pretty publicly too when I go to expos and things like that. So the crab mentality basically is that if all the crabs are put in one bucket and one crab tries to escape by getting out, the other crabs will pull the leg down, and they make sure that no crab escapes. Because that's how, if you go to a fish market, you'll see crabs are kept. They're kept in a basket, and they know that they're not going to escape. Right? So that is what the Indian mentality is. It's always been like that they like to pull. If somebody, as long as you're in that bucket, you're good. But the moment you start doing things that are basically making you leave the bucket, they want to make sure that you stay. But if in case you're able to escape that, then you're good. Then they're fine with that as soon as you're out. So I think that phase of me in 2023 was more so about that I was like really like breaking that stereotypes and like really like getting out of that bucket. Up until that, there was like I would say like a lot of support. And because there is always a thing with me that I live in Canada and I don't live in India, and there's a lot of influencers and I would say a few YouTubers that I've like thought that that can be something that can be used to say that I'm not an Indian. So that became a thing also that, okay, like I'm an American or sorry, I'm a Canadian. And for me, I've like kept my good balance in the beginning that I wanted to like, be both. And because I'm living in Canada, but I wanted to represent India because that's where the goals started. That's where I started thinking about going to the Olympia. So the first Olympia I did, I represented Canada. That's, because at the time in 2019, there was no option to change your country. The option was with the address that you're putting in for where you live, for where they're sending you your IFBB Pro card, is the address is by default your country. But in 2020, they changed that rule and they said that, hey, if you are from some other country or you want to put in any country, you can put that. So when I saw that and then I talked to them, I saw Andre Dew change his country to Romania before it was something else that he was putting. I think it was UK he was putting. And there was a few other athletes I saw that were able to put Brazil, even though they were Americans, like Carlos. So I saw that and that was before I competed. So I went to the IFBB and I'm like, okay, I'm an Indian and I'm an Indian citizen, but I'm a permanent resident of Canada and I want to be able to write India. And they said, okay. So I changed that, but to a lot of people, because 2019 was my breakout year, was the year that I did law shows, qualified for the Olympia first time. It became a thing that I'm not an Indian because I'm representing Canada. So, and it's something that is like, I wouldn't say that that is something that is there for a lot of the countries, but in India, we are like very patriotic in that way that, we want to like make sure that if a person is, if the US, if the UK or the US president or prime minister is an Indian, they would not look at him as an Indian. They would look at him as an American because they're like, oh, he's still born and brought up there. He's not from India. That's the way it should be. Is like Satya Nadella and all these other guys. There's a lot of guys that have been CEOs of Google and big corporations like Microsoft. They don't look at them as Indians, right? A lot of them, but there's also a certain percentage minority that does be like, oh, at least, they have this background. So to me, that worked against me and I had to fight that from basically 2019 to up to this day today that, hey, I don't think that that is true. And it just depends on like, what are you doing for the country? If I'm doing something from Canada, that is a positive thing because I live in Canada. If I'm doing something positive for India, that is also a positive thing because, my whole family and I was born and brought up in India. So that was always something that, I had to fight my way through to this day that am I a Canadian or am I an Indian? Am I a Canadian? Am I an Indian? So that is basically what was always be like, oh no, the Indians are Indians and I'm like not an Indian. And there was a lot of like, I think a lot of YouTubers were like saying that, oh no, I was like born in Canada. Like there was a lot of misinformation. And then at some point I just stopped like basically like caring about it. So that is one thing that worked for the hate. And the other thing is, as everybody knows, there was a show that happened between me and Ali. And Ali has a lot of following because India is a diverse country which has two religions, Hindus and Muslims, which are the majorities. And Ali had a lot of support from because he is able to speak Hindi, he's able to speak the language of Indians, and because Urdu and I don't know the language that is spoken in Afghanistan. I think it's Urdu, but they're very similar. Hindi and that. And Bollywood movies are shown in a lot of Middle East countries. So they have a good understanding of that language. And because when you speak the language, it is something that, hey, like this guy's like, he's like ours. And I feel like a lot of the time, because we had that show in 2022, when I had done the India Pro show, there was a thing that he's doing that show. And I was not supposed to do the India Pro show. Ryan, my coach at the time, we wanted to only focus at the Olympia. I had already qualified. Why am I competing? And like, basically like, not like, why am I competing? So then when this came out and then this Ali thing came out that he's doing the show, everybody in India was like, hey, if you don't compete, then you are losing to him. If you don't compete, then we need to see you compete against him. And a lot of Indian athletes also at the time were like, they are so much better and they are all this. And I used to get a lot of that. All of my 2022, all I just got was challenges. I'm better than you, I'm this and that. So I was just like, okay, that's enough. Like, I don't care. I care about the Olympia, but I don't care about it as much as like these challenges being thrown at me every week. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And at that time, I think he had won one show, Ali. So I was like, let's do that. So then it became a thing for the organizers, Buwan versus Ali, because I had won 2 shows by then and he had won 1. So I did that show and he decided to drop out from that show. But all the Indian athletes were there, I think 19 or 20 of them. So I did that show. I did a show before that as well and won both those shows. And then it just became clear. And then I was like, okay, like I have done the show. And then at the Olympia, I couldn't peak and I couldn't show up at my best. And that was a breakout year for Ali, 2022. Same year that was supposed to be a breakout year for me. And then it became again that, oh, if he had competed, then he would have won. And I kept saying like, okay, like, we don't know. He showed up good at Olympia, but he could have not showed up great at the India Pro Show where I showed up great. Same package that I got in the India Pro Show, if I got it at the Olympia, I believe I was a top 10 contender. And we could have gone head to head. But again, and the next time came, which is the June India Pro Show. I was already competing a few times, but I had done a show a week before, which was the Toronto Pro Show. And going to India was a challenge because it's a week and I knew that this is a time zone difference. And I had already just done 2 back-to-back shows. So doing that and then coming back, because what if I don't win the India Pro Show? I have to come literally the next day back and then do again a show. So 2 time zones changing. I was like, I wasn't sure if I want to do that. It was a lot of pressure. I was getting close. I came third twice. First show, second show, I came third. I was like, okay, I just need 1 more or 2 more shows and I can win. And pressure was again that he's doing that show. You have to do it. Otherwise you're scared of him or this and that. So I was like, I'm not scared of anybody. I don't give a shit who he is. So I'm going to just come. And then I told my coach, I don't care. I don't care if I qualify this year or not. I'm going. So I took the flight 2 days after my show and I was in India and now I'm battling this crazy jet lag. It was brutal. I was losing weight every day because it's just your body clock shifts. So you lose weight during the daytime, not at night time. Yeah. So I'm like, oh, this is getting really close. Like, now we are 2 days out and we are 1 day out and we're not filling out as much. But I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I did the show. And in that show, Ali came third. And when Ali came third, the first thing he did is literally right off the stage, he went live and he started talking shit. Literally like 5 minutes after. And I had never seen that happen. I have competed. By that time, I'd competed in 15 pro shows, 13, 14 pro shows. And I've competed with like hundreds of pros. And I've never had an issue with any pro my entire life, like amateurs and pros. We have mutual respect. We take up the losses. We go ahead. This guy, 5 minutes after, is going and crying on social media. That too on Instagram Live was mind-boggling to me. And then the whole thing had just started because when as an athlete, you have a good following. Like I would believe I had a cult following at that time too. And he had a cult following at that time too. When you're going on live and you're talking like things that, hey, look, it was cheating. Hey, you were not given priority as a judge. Hey, people knew that. I knew that I'm already going to win. Or the judges like didn't even make him like win. All these things, your followers are going to believe you. So now you just started a war between my followers and your followers. And at the time, as I said, there was already a thing about me like not being an Indian. And now winning 2 back-to-back shows in India, there were a lot of people that didn't like that. And that's normal. Like I have certain followers and some people don't like me. And then it just started a war all over social media. And to get views, you just use my name and you'll get a view. So now if you know anything about social media, the moment you switch into negativity, it increases your engagement by like 20-fold. So then the moment for the first time you have something to say negative against me, every influencer jumped on board. Every single person jumped on there. So now even with the guys that were supporting me, the engagement was so much lower that everybody wanted to say something controversial. Even Olympia, it was Derek and I think the ISPB and Olympia didn't like that. And they had wanted to have a live like at the Olympia TV. Derek had messaged me that it's about time to have you and him, like, because it's getting like out of hands and on the show, and like, let's figure this out, because he was talking about the judges too, and he was the judge. Derek was the head judge. So I'm like, okay. And then he didn't show up at that either. So it didn't work out. So we couldn't get on face to face and sort it out because he didn't show up. So that's okay. We were busy with the Olympia prep and we just moved on, and I started focusing on my prep and he started focusing on his prep. But that was the year that was the most difficult for me, because I for the first time felt that even though I won, I am just facing with this thing about that I didn't deserve, which is okay because that happens. It's a subjective sport. But the fact that there is an athlete that is like saying that and doesn't understand that the way the division works is, you may feel that you are winning, but the judge may not. And to me, I faced that so many times. There was a show in 2019 that I did, Mile High Pro. And this is a story that is as real as it can get, because I don't know if he even knows it, but I came second at that show, but I was coming first. And the reason I know I was coming first is because there was a check that was written at first place and my name, and that was canceled out. Okay. So, and when I saw that check, and I was given that check itself. So when I saw that check, I was just like, here we go. And all I needed to do was post that on social media and start causing a ruckus, because I was a new pro. That was my third pro show. I'm disappointed. I felt I'm winning and I didn't. And I don't understand. So I asked the person that gave me the check, and they said that, yes, I was winning, and they switched it last minute at finals. So I was like, okay, no problem. So then I was so pissed about the fact that I went to my room, switched my clothes, and went and trained legs right after. Because I was like, I can't, like, but the other thing I could have done is just go on social media and do a live. I'm like, this is what happened, blah, 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 blah. And then now I'm like feeling relieved with all the things that I'm feeling inside. But what did I choose to do? Did something different. So to me, and I've done other shows where I have won, and I know my competitors, like, we had a good talk after the show, and it was good. Like, hey, we just move on, and we saw each other at the Olympia. So it was very different for me. It was very shocking, but at the same time, that really like changed the rest of the year for me, because I was getting, if you know anything about Middle East followers, they are notorious. They like, in a prime example is Hardy and Derek.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right. So I spoke to Derek. It's funny because I've spoken to Derek. I went to his MI40 gym the year after. I spoke to him and we were talking about this stuff. Right? Like how they make your life like a misery, how they just don't stop. They give you threats. They give you life threats. They come after your parents. They come after your sister. They come after, like, they don't leave anything in the store to ensure that you feel so much rage, but all you can really do is just ignore. Because like when they start targeting like personal stuff, that's when you like really like start like getting like angry. But what are you going to do with social media, right? So that was a difficult year. So, and then we go to the Olympia, and I think me and him both were like 16th, me and Ali, and we were one call out apart. But then it became about, if he is fourth call out and I'm fifth call out, that's what the whole story became. So it doesn't matter that we are both the same position. It's like, hey, he's ahead of me. And now again, the whole thing had started. And somehow that year is just, as life goes, Olympia, like IFBB League, did a little mistake, and when they did the rankings, they put my name at 17, which is not a ranking spot. And they made that typological error. Again, as you know, social media is negativity. People saw that, immediately started making content that I came 17th and everybody else was 16th. So there's like these 40 guys that are 16, and there's this one guy that is 17. And of all the names they could have written the 17 next to, they put mine in.
Wheels.
So I contacted IFBB. I'm like, do you see what you just did? Or I go, we're sorry. And I have that email, and I posted the email on my story like, hey, the IFBB just emailed me that that's a typo from their end and it's being corrected. It was too late. There was like 5 videos already made and millions of views already done. So at that point, I was just like, this is just not my year. This is just a year that is going to teach me something, that how to stay strong and how to just not care about the social media aspect of things. So then I slowly shifted myself, and I was just like, okay, this is just not my year. I have to move on from it. And, then slowly I just moved on. So 2023 year became like a year of like a learning. It's like, hey, don't focus, don't put all your cards on social media. One day it's with you, the other day it's against you. What are you? Where are you? Are you able to be okay? Are you have a life outside of social media because it can consume you? And I've seen a lot of guys in India, like pros, completely like they had a lot of potential. And honestly, Hart has covered probably all of them at some point. And I'm sure, Hart, you don't even know where they are today because they have not done anything since then. Like 5 years ago, 2020, when you were like making content, there were so many good rising stars. I would say some of them were better than today's rising stars. And they're nowhere to be found because social media completely consumed them to the point that they went, dark, depressed. Manoj is one of the guys that has a very crazy story about that too. Like he almost like had a depression episode, went to the hospital. Like there's a lot of people that just went against him because, again. So the most important thing in competing in men's or like on social media as an influencer is having a very strong belief that you don't need social media and social media is just a part of your life. And one day if Instagram stops or YouTube stops, you can still live the same life. And that is something that I learned at that year that, I have to make a life outside of the social media. And it's been great. When I was younger, it's great. When you're going up, it's great. But the tides change and it changes for every single person I know. No matter who you are, no matter how big of a star you are, we see with Hardy right now, we have seen with a lot of top Olympians, Mr. Olympians, and influencers. Are you able to ride that out, or are you just going to just die with that tide? So I realized that the tide's against me right now, and the best thing I can do is just focus on creating a life outside of social media and still be fine. So I put all my energy into okay, I don't care. Keep doing that. And I just started creating life in 24, 25, and then now 26, everything outside of social media.
You're doing a great job too. Speaking of which, well, first of all, wow. Let me start there. Wow. Because it reminds me so much like of the Americans here who look at Bad Bunny and say, oh, he's not an American citizen. He's from Puerto Rico. What are you talking about? Like that's the United States state, country. Or Obama's he's not an American citizen. He's from Hawaii. What are you talking about? So it's just a level of ignorance, unfortunately, that seems to be a global plague. And it doesn't matter who you are or where you're from, you'll probably find it somewhere under some tree, some rock, somewhere. Someone is there just ready to just, hate, unfortunately, or fortunate. Because I love how, like an alchemist, you've been able to take that negativity, redirect it, and build off of it. So speaking of building, you have this wonderful, beautiful, dope-ass gym that me and the boys have been talking about that we got to get in. We're going to need like lifetime memberships at your gym, bro, because it looks so fire. Tell us about the gym. How did that all come together? How did it culminate? Who's involved? Is it just solely you as the owner? What happened there? How did that arrive?
So again, as I said, that year just changed a lot in me. Up until that year, I had a different goal about my life. Up until that year, I had a different priority in my life. And then when 2023 ended and 2024 started, I was just like, okay, I need to do something more, and I need to do something bigger than myself. Up until that point, I'll be the first to admit, all I did was just focus on myself. Even the coaching that I was doing is still a revenue thing. Like, it's still to make myself feel good that I'm able to help people get to their goals, right? So everything revolves around me. But I was like, okay, I want to now shift and do something for bigger than me. And the first thing that came to my mind was, hey, like, I want to have a gym, and where do I want it? Do I want it in Canada? Do I want it in the US? Do I want it in India? So I started planning things, and I was like, okay, I had already started planning for the gym in Canada. I talked to a friend of mine who, does real estate. I was just like, I broke down I did the whole research for market for like Canada. And then I started thinking about the gym in India too. But then in India, the issue was like, hey, I will not always be there. I may have to retire. There was so many things and so much planning needed. And how am I going to find a place? I don't want to have a normal gym. I don't want to have a typical Indian gym because I just can't, because that's the whole reason I don't spend that much time in India when I'm on prep. because I can do off season there. That's okay. But I don't like to be there on prep because the gym culture is just not as good to support a prep. So then I did some research. I started looking at places. I started looking places in Canada. I started looking places in India. I started just planning everything, finances, how am I going to do this, what, all that. And then I just came to a conclusion that, doing something in India would be so much more fulfilling for me because that's a mark that'll stay forever because I want to change the industry. I want to change the whole gym industry and the gym culture in the entire country. And I know nobody else has the exposure or the knowledge that I have gained by being in the West for more than a decade. And so I started just doing that. I just started putting together a plan. I started contacting all the companies. Fortunately, I had good contacts. I had a good network of people I knew that owned the, gym equipment companies, owned the gyms, started talking to them. And then just the biggest challenge was finding the place that is like that. In India, you don't find places like this, what I have here with a 25th feeling in a mall, in a posh area, and it's very expensive, the rents and everything. So having a proper plan was the biggest challenge, and that's why no industrialist here and no rich people here have ever tried to open a gym like this. They do what works. And what works is like a small 7 to 8,000 square feet gym, 30 machines, but the membership price is the same, and then you just do a franchisee and you make 50 gyms and you take home X amount of money. That's what works. When what's working, why break that? So for me, I was like, nah, I don't like that. I don't want to do something safe because I'm not looking at it as oh, I want to make money from it. I want to just do something that changes the whole thing. And if I'm successful, then forever the industry is changed in India. And if I'm not, then no problem. We'll do something else after.
Well, that was awesome. That's awesome.
I love that, man. I love that. I mean, we were looking at footage of the gym last week, and what is the biggest luxury gym in India? 30,000 square feet.
Mm-hmm.
The aesthetic of it.
More footage.
That's what we need.
Mm-hmm.
We need more footage.
Yeah, we need more footage, bro. You need to put it more out.
We'll talk about it on the next episode. We'll get the more footage. But the one thing that stood out with us and what we loved about it was the name, Physique Ascension Club.
Mm-hmm.
What was the inspiration behind that? Where did that come from?
It's funny because I don't think I've talked about this, but Physique Ascension was the name of my coaching in 2016 or 15. I had already been lifting for 4 years. I was already working in corporate, and I had some, when you're in an office and people look at you eating your meal 6 times a day and doing all the fitness stuff, they look at you as oh, hey, can you help me out? Can you make my plan? Can you oh, there's a gym in the office, why don't you work out there? Come out there sometimes and we'll work out, and maybe you can help me teach a thing or two. So my coaching had started like that. So I started helping them out, and I didn't need the money. I mean, everybody in that office is making good money. So it's not about the money. It's just about, hey, I'm helping my coworker achieve his goal. And I started doing that. And then after 2, 3, 4 months, they started changing the physiques. We started talking to other people in the office, and there are other people in other companies. And now I started having 15, 20, 25 people just make my plan. I was like, okay, this is too much now. I don't have the time to be doing plans all day. So then I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe I'll start charging a little bit. So I'll just start charging $100, 125, 150, just to make sure that just a little bit is coming my way. And at that point, when I had these 10 or 15 people, I can't just give them a Word document or a PDF document. So then I started thinking of a name that I wanted. So the name that came was Team Ascension. That's the first name that came, Ascension of the Physique. So Team Ascension. So me and another friend of mine who was an engineer, we both just okay, we'll just coach all these corporate people together. You take some of them and I'll take some of them. And the name is called Team Ascension. And the word came from, I would say the original inspiration was from the Z's pose, which I used to really love doing, which is, with your hands up and doing that. That's in my mind it's not an official name, but in my mind it used to look like an ascension, how, and then Dragon Ball Z, there's levels of going to Super Saiyan 1, 2, 3. So in my mind, all of this stuff was an ascension. So I was this is what I want to do with my coaching, take people to the next level. And then the Team Ascension became Physique Ascension because my friend didn't have the time to coach, and he had already moved on somewhere else, and he wanted to do his full-time engineering job. So then team changed into Physique. And then Physique Ascension was a thing that I did coaching for almost 2 years. And then fortunately I turned pro, I went to the Olympia, I quit my corporate career, and at that point I had to change the name and be it has to be something with my name. So I want to do my coaching. So then it all went away. So now 2018, now this is gone. Ascension is gone, nothing to do with it. And then in 2023, I started this company, which is called Ascension Foods for Primo Rice brand. So I brought that A back. I brought that Ascension back. It had nothing to do with the business itself. It's just a word that I used to miss. And then when I was doing this 2024 and thinking about the gym, I didn't even have to think twice. The moment I thought I want to open a gym is the moment I was like, oh, this is the name. This is what it's going to be. I went back and forth between calling it like Bhuwan Fitness and Physique and Ascension Club. But then I was like, no, I can put my name, it'll still do well. But this name, this to me just means so much more. It is something that I've had it in me for so long, and I want to trademark it. I want to make it a permanent thing. So I just made that name and I was like, oh, this is it. And I designed the logo myself actually and the whole thing. Yeah.
That's dope. Yeah. That's dope. And it's a fire name. We love the name, bro. And the logo is fire too. Great job.
Phil, go. Phil.
It's funny how, because you asked Buwan what he dreams of. It seems like he dreams of the word ascension because he couldn't let that one. He couldn't let that one go. He brought it back. He let it go. He brought it back. He let it go. So there you go.
Yeah, it was just meant to be.
Yeah, 100%.
I love it, boys. I don't know why tonight I got a million questions for Buwan, but I do. But please cut me off if you guys have some burning questions. Right now, if you do, please get in here. But if not, speaking of ascension, Buwan, I first of all, we got to get to his gym somehow or another, boys. Yeah, and
you do.
We
Absolutely.
We can't wait to see it finish. When is it opening, by the way?
It is already open. It opened in November.
It is open. It's rocking.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought it wasn't open.
And the best part is the gym itself has the building. There's I think 30 or 25 floors in the building, and all the floors have serviced apartments. So everybody that comes here, like Amit, I got some of my friends. Amit is a friend of mine, so I got him to come during the opening, and some other athletes I brought them in. Anik is supposed to be coming. He was supposed to come last month, but then he got busy. He's supposed to be coming soon, and they all live upstairs. So basically, you just take the elevator down to the gym. So, and then there's a kitchen and there's a grocery store as well in the mall. So a meat shop is also there. So you get your chicken, everything delivered. There's obviously a cafe and all that other stuff. But if you want to make your own meals, it's just an elevator right down and you get everything there. So you can come to the gym 3 times a day, do your morning cardio, go back, do your afternoon recovery, go back, take a nap, come back down and, do your training. So it's like a perfect place for a prep. And that is why this location, there is a reason behind everything that I did for getting this location. And I feel like when the time comes for the Delhi Pro Show in June, athletes, amateurs and pro will have the best time because they can just live upstairs. They can train and it's 30 minutes away from the expo center too, where the show happens.
I have so many ideas just now that just flooded my head after hearing that, because you have created an ecosystem. We used to have that American Top Team. I used to compete fighting Muay Thai and stuff. And American Top Team has a similar setup where you would go as an athlete and you sleep there, your food is there, all you're doing, your whole being is just encompassing the lifestyle day in and day out of being an athlete, of being a fighter. And to have this as a bodybuilder is just phenomenal, especially in India, man. That is just true legacy that you're cementing right now. Is beautiful to see. What you were mentioning, some of the dark times and some of the challenging times, a few years ago, with your own countrymen turning on you and some folks and the hate and whatnot. What else have you kind of had to go through, maybe something earlier in life that made you have such an analytical mind, but also have this thick skin about you to keep going and persevering? What did something ever happen to you earlier in life?
I think the biggest thing would be that it was being an international student in Canada was the most challenging thing I've ever done. And I think a lot of my following, a lot of my supporters and followers are actually the immigrants. And I wouldn't even call them immigrants. Actually, they are the international students. Because, yes, I did not spend in my social media life in India, when I had started my social media. So for them to relate to me, I understand is difficult because I don't do things that the Indian IFBB pros or influencers do. I can't do that because it's just not I've seen something very different, and I've seen a lot of dark times. So I can't do things like, just, entertainment. I don't look at myself as an influencer because I don't do entertainment content. Um, and in India, that's what you do to become famous. Um, so for me, spending those 4 years as an international student were very different because I came from a place where I was like always like the popular kid in school, always a lot of friends, always a lot of family support, always like the whole every teacher knew me. I used to just be the head boy. I used to be like, I had everything great in my school life, and I was supposed to have all of that great. I continued my education in India, but I chose something completely different. And when I came here, I just felt out of place. I just felt that, I'm not the same person that I was in India, and everything I had to keep it inside. And keeping it inside, I was always different because the friends that I made in the beginning, like Indian international students, like their lifestyle was very different. Like I got into fitness. That itself just completely isolated me from all my friends that I made because none of them were into fitness. They were all into partying. And first year, like you're 18, you're in the first year of college, 99% of the people just want to do, oh, we are out, we want to be like drinking and partying and things. And I've never drank in my life. So for me, I was already against that culture. And now I'm doing fitness, which is again completely different. So it's just, I started spending a lot of time alone and with myself. And by doing that, any struggle I had, any thought I had, anything that I had to deal with it myself. And all I really knew how to like deal with it is by working more. And I just kept working and I just kept doing a lot of part-time jobs. I just kept doing everything I did was like to save every penny that I could make as from a part-time job, even though I was in scholarships. Bodybuilding was adding expenses. Like even a tub of protein was a thing that I didn't have the money for because scholarships only pay for your education. They don't pay for a tub of protein. So it's just like as I started getting more fit, and now I wanted creatine, now I wanted like multivitamin, now I wanted omega-3, now I wanted a pre-workout. I started pre-workout. I'm like, now I can work out without a pre-workout. So it just the list started going so much higher. And then like, oh, I want to try this more expensive one because it looks better. The budget just kept going so much higher. And I'm like, shit, I need to work more, I need to work more, I need to work more. So then I kept working more, and then I fortunately was able to like get a job, like an internship. And international students don't get engineering jobs. For anybody that's listening or they know, international students are not given a preference for proper job, like internships. So to do that, you have to really be amongst that 0.001% that all the other guys that are from that country, you are better than them on paper and in the interviews. And when I was able to get that, I started having a feeling of like a little bit of success that, okay, I'm getting like all those sacrifices were worth it. So all of that built this mindset in me that if I just work my ass off, I will always get something that others don't get, but they wish for. Like that internship that I talking about. I got it the first, then I got it the second year too. And then I got a job before I graduated. So the only year that I had a lot of fun was my final year because October I had a job offer sitting, and that was from one of the biggest companies in oil and gas. And it was one of the best offers any student could have got. So I'm like, oh, my work is done now. I mean, I still have 2 semesters left, but I have everything that I need. And I'm going to be making money very soon, and I'm going to be in a very good place. So then that year I started like enjoying, I started partying, I started going to music festivals. I started like talking to people that I used to like, but I couldn't like, be friends with because I was on a different path. And now I could just make more friends. I started having a bigger circle. I had like at least 8 or 10 friends. They're going to the gym, they're going to music festivals. I started living that life for that 1 or 2 year. And that was the best time. And then it also showed me that, yeah, I worked my ass off for those 3 years. I sacrificed so many things. Now I'm getting a reward while everybody else is looking for a job. I'm just enjoying, counting the days till I can start making that money because the first day I graduate is the day I have a paycheck. And that was the best feeling. And then when I got into bodybuilding, it's the same thing that I had. I worked my ass off in 2016 to work full time, do a prep, and win, not one, not two, like all my shows I had done up until I turned pro, I had won. So it just instilled this feeling that if you just work your ass off and you just make all the sacrifices that are needed and you just want something more than you want to breathe, you get that while other people wish for it. So it just changed that. It just got me into that mindset that if I work very hard, I will get what I want. So when the gym thing was built, or like, the the bad times, every time I went through a bad time, even that year, like 2023, I couldn't do more in bodybuilding. I mean, I was already giving my 100%. So, okay, so what else can I do that will make me feel that I'm working so hard that I'll get what I want? In bodybuilding, the genetics also are there. It's not just your hard work. So the amount of time that it's taking me to reach, my goal may be a little bit longer, for how the division was changing. So I knew I just knew that for me, it'll take more time because the division is changing faster and my progress is slower. But that's not because my effort is less. That's because I'm still staying healthy, but my body is just, it's at a different pace than somebody else. So what do I do? What else can I do? And that's when the gym and then the other businesses, and I set up like 3, 4, 5, like kept setting up businesses outside of social media. And I was like, now I'm doing everything. Now I'm like, not just like in bodybuilding, but I'm doing everything outside. And that year, 23, 24, I basically got out of social media. Like I switched. I lost a few sponsors. I was making less money from sponsorships, but then I started making more money from non-sponsorships. So if tomorrow Instagram shuts down, it doesn't make much difference to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what that hard time showed me.
Well said, man.
Yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's inspiring.
Buwan, I've got a burning question. I've been holding back all day.
Yeah.
And it's something that I actually saw in one of the comments of one of our videos. We spoke about you. We speak about you quite frequently, but there's a comment that was in my head, and it's in regards to bodybuilding. And it was one thing that you worried me right now, because you're like, your body's progressing, but it's at a slower pace, and your head's in the business and side of things. But the question that was asked was, when are we going to see Buwan back on stage? Is there a chance that you will compete again? Are you planning on competing again? And if so, when are you jumping back on stage?
I'm not retiring anytime soon. I am waiting for the time that it takes for me to get to the point where I can do 10 shows a year and just not stop, because it's not a size issue, because I can compete non-stop. The only reason I stop myself from doing that many shows is because I need that size. And for me, I know the size comes with time. And yeah, it will take some time to get to maybe I may not never be the biggest guy, but Ryan Terry is also not the biggest guy. But he paid his dues, in the trenches to get to that place. And I know that for me, I have to go through that, get that density up. And then once I have that, then I can just, there's no stopping, because competing, I love. Suffering, I love. But to grow dense muscle, you don't need to suffer. That is something very different. That is about a game of patience and a consistent, dieting and training. So I'm just putting in the work to get there. I'm getting closer and closer to my weight cap. And I know the day I'm hitting my weight cap is the day then, my physique is at the same level as a lot of these other guys. And that's going to be my time. Sometimes before a war, sometimes before a battle, war goes on for years. War goes on for multiple times. And some battles you lose and some battles you win. But at the end of the day, you get the time to devise the right strategy, get the right plan in place. And even with a smaller army, even with less talent, you can still win if you strategize properly. And that's where my mind's at.
That's a million times correct. Alexander the Great, Hannibal, Napoleon, so many leaders in the world, a lot of Persian leaders who had 40,000 against 250,000 and still won through strategy. And it's beautiful to hear you quote some of that. So that's awesome, man. What are some of the other businesses that you're involved in?
And also what that'll happen. You may not get it, but you'll be better. You just keep getting better. Yeah, it's just what's the worst? That I just look at it, what's the worst? I'll still keep getting better. I'll hit my weight cap. That's a fact. At that point, if the division is, if my weight cap is 10 pounds more by the time I hit my current weight cap, sure, but I'll be better than what I was 3 years ago. And at least I'm at a point that whenever that time comes for me to retire, I know that, I consistently every year, every 2 years got better. And that's it. That's good enough for me.
What is the life around it? How far under the weight cap are you right now?
So I was 210, 211 in my last couple shows that I did. My weight cap is 217. So 6 months, but I have huge legs. So realistically, let's just say that I'm probably like a little bit more, like less in my upper body.
So you're 6'1"?
I'm 6 feet,
6 feet?
182.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
bro. Very wide clavicle too. Let me just throw that out there. Go ahead, Hart. Go ahead, Phil. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go, Phil.
No,
Last one for me, Buwan. I feel like this has been awesome to be able to connect with you. I think the last time I connected with you was on Alex's podcast a few months ago. I think it was on the welcome back for this show, and you were on there,
Yeah.
which was super cool,
Yeah.
bro. You gave me a lot of love.
Yeah, you had just make a comeback. So
Yeah, now look
you
who I
was all
got by me,
celebrating.
and
We
now
were all
look who I got,
celebrating.
bro. Now it's go time. Now it's go time with these
Yeah,
boys.
I'm seeing that and I'm happy.
Yeah, bro. Couldn't do it without these boys. Last question for me, Buwan. Speaking of ascension and ascending careers, we just spoke with Anik Ghosh,
Mhm.
and if he came to you, Buwan, and wanted to sit you down and pick your brain, and he asked, "Hey, Buwan, what do I need to do to be in a position like you one day, to be a multi-time Olympian, to be able to do this sport full time?" Because as of right now, he's one of those guys that works full time and is looking for sponsorships. He's looking for opportunities in this sport to take it full time. What advice do you have for other rising pros like him?
I would say the biggest thing is to not get distracted with the little bit of fame that comes on your way up. Because and I'm a prime example, but I've also seen it before. When you're on your way up, almost everybody will support you, and that can you can get a little bit at the top of your head. Then you are like untouchable, and you will now be able to do great, and like you have all the support, and everything's gonna go great, and you keep getting up in like even like in terms of making money. But if you keep yourself grounded during that and you realize that, hey, it's great, you appreciate the good stuff, but the thing is, any day it can change. And when it does, do you have that? Do you have that safety net? Do you have that strong mind to still keep going up, even though everybody else is not supporting you as much? Because everybody loves when you're like rising, but when you're already at the top, then there's probably like equal amount of people that don't want you, and the equal amount of people that want you to go down. And I feel like with Anik or any of the up and coming guys, that is going to be the biggest challenge, because right now they're on their way up and it feels great. I've been there, I understand. But the same people that are supporting you the day you lose or the day you don't do well, and then you're not making into the Olympia, which if that happens to him later, the same people will turn against you, and you really, really need to be extremely strong to still be on your path and not get affected. Because if you have that mindset itself will give you a certain feeling that will attract the sponsors and attract the right people. And just being more smart about how you approach sponsorships. This is something that I think I wanted to make a video on this before. I haven't had the time, but this is something and I have once made a video about how to get sponsorships, how to make money from social media. And I made that video in 2022, and a lot has changed since then. So I should make one other one. But the biggest thing is you need to be extremely smart in choosing the right companies. You may get less money from certain company, but you have, and that's like, I feel like that's a skill that comes with time. But if you make the wrong decisions because of short-lived, more money, or you're like, oh yeah, this brand is so big and I'm going to get so much money from it. But this other brand, oh, this is small, but like, oh, this is so much, like it's giving me $500 less. I think if you're not smart enough to pick the right companies, you're going to get screwed in this industry very easily, and you're going to be left with nothing. So maybe go after the people or the companies. It's more important to go after who you're talking to, like the owner or like the manager, and really do a hard research on the culture in the company and where do you stand in that, versus just going after a name because this company is giving you money and you need money. Immediately you jump board and you do that. Fortunately for me, I look at myself as somebody that has been able to make the right choices in every single company I've ever chosen to be a part of. And all my sponsors that I have are 6, 7, 8 years old. I've never switched a brand. Supplement brand, I've not switched a brand. clothing company in Dartsport. Now I've been with 6 years. Before that, I was with one or two other companies, but I always had something. Father Sons, I've been with like almost like 8 years now, seven years now. And like my gym equipment sponsors that I have, like it's been like 4 years, and I know like the contract is almost 10 years long. So like just being like making the right choices. And there's a lot of companies that came my way, especially in 2020, 2021, and definitely 2022. And I had to say no to all of them, no matter the amount of money they threw at my face. There was a lot of money that was being thrown in 21 and 22 to me from a lot of Indian brands. And I said no to them all to stick to the one that I am with. And I think that was one of the best decisions I've made, because in 2019, even I won't say the name, but one of the biggest supplement companies in the industry, uh, you know, came to me, and they're his owner, who's like he's probably the number one coach in the world. And I could not join that company, because to me, the money and the opportunities that were coming from that company were not as important as the safety of being with a company that I know, whether I do well or I don't do well in the sport or on social media, they will have my back, and there's a personal relation I'll be able to have, and they'll support me during the low times. So,
Great answer.
and a classic
Wow.
example I can share openly here is like father sons during the COVID year, because this is something I feel like it's good to share, because father sons during the COVID year were not paying their athletes because COVID was difficult. This is 2020. I had just got the sponsorship a year and a half ago. And they weren't paying their athletes for almost 6 to 8 months, maybe. And I was still posting for them. I said to the owner, it's okay. It's okay. I understand. And I also understand you may never want me again. Maybe the company will not be there. Maybe the budget will change, because they told me like they're not sure. And I kept posting, and I just kept doing my same contractual obligations the entire year. Took them almost 7 to 8 months. And then all the athletes were let go of. There was only 2 or 3 left. And the ones that were left, the 3 were the main ones that still stayed true to their company when they were in need and they were not doing well. It was the easiest thing what would a person do when you're not getting paid? Hey, why should I do anything now? You're not paying me. You're not even telling me when you will pay me. You might never get me. But I genuinely like the products. I genuinely was wearing the products. If I'm wearing the products and I'm liking the product, why shouldn't I just be a good athlete and do my due diligence of, hey, like I still like your brand. And that's what I did. And then 8 months, 7 months later, like I was amongst those 3 athletes that they kept on. And this is something I want to show here and like talk on, as to reach as many people. It's not always a one-way street. It's not always like a business transaction. Sometimes you also have to do for the business owner to see your value, even if you're not getting monetary compensation in return. And that's why it's so important to make the right decisions for the right companies. Because again, our owner also has to see this and reward it, because they're also like, oh yeah, this guy is great. Not every guy is going to think like that. They may think, oh, the budget doesn't allow. I don't care if he's posting for 6 or 8 months. I don't care. My budget is not allowing me to keep him. He's doing great. He's getting me free content. Let's just use him for free content. So it's both ways, like which companies you go for, what are the owners like, and what are you doing for the company outside of your contractual obligations.
I love that, man. I love that. I mean, especially with, in 2026, the rise of the social media influencers, like I can only imagine that everyone's going to be chasing the big checks. Everyone wants top dollar. But to hear your point of view, man, I mean, you know better than anyone else. Like it's not always about chasing the top dollar. It's about standing behind a company and a community that will back you no matter what. So that's some really, really good insight for not only athletes that are coming up the ranks looking for sponsorships, but I guess anyone who's on social media as a whole. That's really, really good, man. Oh, I got to ask you a question. Arnold Classic, 3 weeks time. Who's taking it out? Who's your top 3? I should say
it's going to be a good
top
show.
3.
Top 3.
It is going to be a good show. For me, I would say top 3 in no particular order. I think Emmanuel, Andre, and Ben. These 3 I would say are at the top for me, like with the way that they progress their physiques. But then again, it can change if they don't show up the way I look at them right now and the progress that I see right now.
No B?
No, Brandon?
Brandon is up there as well. Brandon is up there, but I am talking about the guys that have made the most like dramatic, like progress. Like
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
I'm not saying like, oh, these are the only guys that will be in top 3. What I look at is like, I'm very impressed with the progress that at least Ben and Emmanuel has made from the last Olympia to now. And this is just based on their pictures and their videos. But Brandon is the most consistent athlete. I'm not going to be surprised if he just wins it because he's consistent, right? Because he is the most consistent athlete. I think everybody can relate to that. He shows up consistently. He's done the most shows. But in terms of the progress, in terms of like the changes to a physique, I would say Emmanuel and Ben have worked on their weaknesses to bring something that I'm really excited to see. And if they don't show up at that 100%, Brandon is a consistent guy. He will always show up at that 100%. You can't take out a guy that is consistent. But these guys, and the reason I say on review, I would say like I would probably place him in that top 4, not top 3. He could be top 3, but it would be in more top 4. It's because he looks great, but he has made a lot of progress from before. But to me, the shape of Ben, shape of especially Emmanuel, and these guys just stand out because I think they've made that progress that the judges asked them to. I've competed with them. I know chest of Emmanuel, like, the shape, his abs, that were always a thing that he lagged, and I think he's worked great. He's done a great job at that. Ben, it was always his chest. He brought up his back as well, but his chest was always like not as full. He's done a great job. Brandon is just Brandon. Like, he's just great. He's just like, he's always been the most consistent, but I don't think that he had to change anything. If at all, it was just improving his back. And we will see when that back is on that stage.
Yeah. Love that.
Hey, speaking of film and reels, what my last question is, what you think of the Anik Ghosh and Buwan reel that I dropped? I love that you came in. You said some really positive things. It was done in a positive light, for sure. And just respect to both of you guys. But what'd you think of it, man?
I like it. See, I like Anik. I've seen him turn pro. I've talked to him many times. At the India Pro show, I was helping him with his posing. His coach is a good friend of mine. I have talked to him about how to change his poses. When he was doing the New York Pro last year, I was actually messaging him on Instagram, like, hey, don't do this, don't do that. Like keep stick to the hand on the hip pose. Like, why are you doing? And I was just so much at his ass. I'm like, don't. Like, I'm looking at it. I'm looking at you. Don't make a mistake. Like, you can like be so much higher. And he's like, yeah, I'm trying. I'm gonna like so. I don't know. I just have a thing with guys that I feel like, as I said, like these guys that are hardworking, they're sincere. I just feel like maybe it's like a responsibility, or maybe it's something that it's like I want to do to help like the guys that I feel like are me, like they're hardworking, to help them. And if I can do that, it gives me a good feeling. At the same time, the last time me and him went on stage, we weren't even at the same call out. So to me, going in front of him again when I'm on stage, I don't care who he is outside of the stage. To me, I'm coming for his head. So it's just on stage, it's a completely different.
Let's go. Hey,
on stage, I want to do everything I can.
I will say he had so many positive and praises to bestow upon you. It was so great, man. He really cares for you and appreciates you tremendously, and had nothing but incredible things to say. So it's just keep doing what you're doing, man. Positive energy for sure.
Phil,
Two ways. It's both ways.
close this bad boy out.
All right. Leave the big job up to me. Brother Buwan, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on today, man. I mean, like I said at the start, a lot of the Indian community, we're hoping to see you on our show, and I'm so glad, on behalf of the boys, we're so glad to have you on here, man, to, like I said, discuss everything that we discussed about today. And bro, we definitely want you back in the future. We'd be more than happy to have you back in the future. I'm sure the fans would love to see you back as well, brother. So again, on behalf of myself, Hart, Aleem, the rest of the men's physique community, we appreciate you being on here, man. And we'll catch up with you again soon.
Thanks, guys, for having me. It was great.
Appreciate you, brother.